3, 2, 1.
All right. Yeah, so
Awesome.
I can link that up.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, here we are. This is the first official episode
Yes.
of
the drop.
The Drop.
And we didn't have that name in the pilot episode.
We didn't. And we owe that to our good friend Will Freeman of Surface DVD.
Yes.
Of Surface DVD fame.
Yes.
And yeah, he came up with the name. We were on IG Live and just chopping it up, doing our giveaway, which we'll explain in a little bit that we do a giveaway through our websites. But we were doing our giveaway, our IG Live, and we just threw the question out there, like, let's name this thing. And Will said, The Drop. And we're like,
Yeah.
awesome.
It just stuck. It's like I said in the pilot episode, I just thought we needed something else, but something simple, but you know what I mean? That didn't take away
Yeah.
from the Frank and Brian part. But I think it'll help with.
And the
moving
interesting part about it was when I was like so once we came up with the name The Drop and I was like just kind of researching like, Instagram handles and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff named The Drop.
Yeah. Well, even on Spotify to look up the podcast, you have to type in The Drop with Frank and Brian.
Yeah.
And hopefully, once people start to, like, if you're on Spotify, you can rate the thing, like 5 stars or whatever. So hopefully people will do that. I made Chelsea do it a second ago. I was like, is there like a rating system on this? And she was like, yeah. I was like, 5 stars.
5 stars. So everybody, please rate 5 stars if you're watching on YouTube, just like and comment.
Yeah.
And if you're not subscribed to either one of our channels, please do that. But if you're listening to this via audio, please rate and do all that great stuff.
Yeah. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that stuff on YouTube, and then any of your podcast stuff, like you said, just it all helps out.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the audio situation here is a little bit better.
Oh,
God.
So a couple things, putting the pilot out there and just putting it out there. One, I was so happy with the reception it got. Like, I think everybody is pretty stoked about it. I think a lot of people are interested in it and want to hear more. So thank you to everybody who gave us positive vibes on this whole thing. I really appreciate that. We really appreciate that. And secondly, everybody was roasting you on your audio.
I know. I was roasting myself because the whole time I'm like, audio is important. I'm so hard on myself when it comes to that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then mine was just garbage, and yours sounded great. You know what I mean? Like, and I even have a backup here. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can't see that, but I have this.
Oh, okay.
Next to my microphone,
just in case things get hairy.
Just in case things get hairy.
Okay.
Yeah, because I probably spent 2 or 3 hours trying to recover that audio in addition and all this stuff, and it was just
wasn't working.
No, I don't know enough about that.
It was cool just to put it out there, though, even though it was a bit flawed. It was cool to put it out there.
Yeah, it's not like you couldn't hear the audio or anything like that. It just didn't sound good.
It just, yeah. But no, that's okay. We're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot through this podcast, and we're going to learn as we go. And hopefully everybody is as patient as they were with the first one.
I think so.
Yeah.
So how do you want to do this one?
We were talking about, one, kind of giving a little background on each one of ourselves. 2, we were going to talk about the name, which I think we did, and I think we kind of covered it in the first one about why we wanted to start a podcast.
Yeah.
I think we knocked that out of the way.
Yeah.
And so now it's just sort of like introductions about ourselves, I think.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Who are you? Who is Brian Good?
Is it good or is it good?
I'm sorry.
Gouda or is it Goude?
I don't know. I don't even know. I called you Good. I have no idea.
Growing up, I always said good, and then now I've it is actually good.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you just kind of embraced it.
Yeah. And I've been embracing it more lately, so.
That's good.
Yeah, that's all. That's who I am.
Okay. That's it?
That's it.
Not how you got started or like where you're from, what do you do?
I think everybody knows what I do unless someone's listening to this podcast and has no idea what this is at all.
I think everybody has like a general idea of
Yeah.
who we are and what we do.
And that's
but I
the-
think
That's the disconnect that we're in when we were talking earlier that I'm having a little bit with this is when you're doing a vlog, everyone's been following you for a long time. Mm-hmm. So when we start this, do we start it new? Do we start it
like ground floor.
ground floor? Because it's people are that listen to podcasts, automotive podcasts, are all gonna see this and then they're like, oh, who's this? Mm-hmm. So, yeah,
I think lightly touch on. I think what really people really want to know is like people ask me, just from my perspective, people ask me like how you get, like, who are you, how'd you get started, and I always want to give like a pretty I've always wanted to give a detailed kind of backstory. So if you want to, it's up to each one of us like how we want to present it and stuff like that, but I do have a pretty detailed backstory.
and I probably should have a detailed backstory, but I don't know. You know me. I get bored talking about myself, so
And I don't, and I'll
So-
talk about myself all day.
I'm gonna let you go then. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, all right. So we'll start with me.
Yeah, write your book, Frank.
And for the record, I am at one point in my life, I am going to write a book.
Are you going to need to write a book after this?
Oh my God, that's a good question. People could just reference this, huh?
This people can just reference this.
I see. So I better get really in the mud then. I think you just opened up the door.
We only have 45 minutes left.
Okay, I'll try to give the short long story. How about
Okay.
that?
All right.
Okay. So the short long story is I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about this the past couple of days, how I want to present this, and I think I want to start like I could start very far back, of course, and like the old trope is I grew up around cars, and yeah, I did. I grew up around cars. My dad was into cars. He was cruising Whittier Boulevard back in the '60s and drag racing and doing all that great stuff. But I think that's too far back. I think my story starts kind of in my formative years, like 12, 13 years old, and the reason I start there is because during that time in the mid 90s, my family had a vintage car lot, and it was just a car lot that sold vintage cars. And we had a lot of cars that we'd buy and sell ourselves, but a lot of cars that would come on consignment. So that's where I really cut my teeth in the automotive kind of like space. And by that, I mean like, that's where I learned most of my knowledge. So, and it was kind of interesting how it went down. So people come on the lot. And I should also mention, I'm gonna be kind of like I'm gonna put a caveat out there that I'm probably gonna jump around a little bit because I was thinking about it earlier. I had all planned in my head, but
Yeah, it's probably not going to work like that. You also didn't say your name.
Yeah. Oh, my name is Frank Newton, and I am the owner of Custom Life. And it's not Custom Life clothing; it's just the Custom Life. And we make T-shirts. We make T-shirts. We go to shows. We sell them at shows. We make videos that we post on YouTube. We do photography. We kind of do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So that's me. I'm Frank.
And we're going to get into the sunglass thing here, but in another episode, and the reason why he wears them on the vlog.
I wear them if I'm at a show.
Not the vlog, I'm sorry, but on this podcast.
Oh yeah, I think it just has to. I think it has to just like carry over. Like I don't think I could come on here wearing regular glasses because I think this so far this is me, right?
No, this is your character. That's your character.
That
we
is my
we want to
character.
know about Frank Newton.
Oh, should I change my glasses then if I'm going to be Frank?
I'm just
Newton?
kidding. Come on.
Okay, no, I'll just. Anyway, I know. I'll speed things up.
We'll get into the glass thing down the road.
I am now realizing that I'm maybe digging too deep into this. Okay, let me try to expedite this process.
Tell me who you are.
So, formative years, growing up around cars. My family owned a vintage car lot, and interesting fact, I was at the time I was the youngest licensed car salesperson in Southern California. I got my vehicle salesperson's license, which is an actual thing, and when you get it, you get like a almost looks like a driver's license, and it says vehicle salesperson on it. And I was 13 years old when I got that, and when I got it, got into the point where they were like looking in books to make sure that a 13-year-old kid can sell cars. It was a thing. Anyway, so that's where it started. So on this car lot, that's where I cut my teeth, my formative years learning about cars. And as people would come on the car lot, I'm the sales guy, right? So I'm going to try to sell them this car.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know a whole lot about them, so I only knew what I had learned up to that point. So what I would do is I would say something about a car, and then I would let the customer like school me on it. So and some guys would get so upset. Like I would be like, this is a I don't know, a 1964 Chevy, and this is the motor in it, and they go like, that's not the original motor. The original motor came in this and blah blah blah. So that's how I like learned. That's how I learned about vehicles and stuff like that. So those were my formative years, and when I got into the space that I'm in now, it was like a natural progression, just being into cars. And getting my first car. My first car was actually a 1955 Chevy Bel Air. That was my first car, and I still actually have that car. No one's ever seen it; it's stored away, but I have that car still. So that's where I cut my teeth. But then I really got into this space later on, like after high school. So through high school, had a lowered pickup, just the normal stuff like that. Well, after high school, I wanted to take this pickup and put hydraulics on it. I wanted airbags, but I knew a hydraulic guy, so I ended up putting hydraulics on it. So I rolled around that summer. It was like the summer of 2000 in this full-size OBS on juice. And I traded that for an S10, a shaved and bagged S10. And when I first got this S10, the wiring was a mess in it. So I took it to a local stereo shop and I had the guy fix it. Well, a guy here, a guy named Pat Buzzard. He is a local guy here. He was in a club called Twisted Obsessions. And he was the president of Twisted Obsession. So he's driving past the stereo shop. He sees this bag truck.
This is a mini truck club.
This is mini truck club. Yeah, I've only ever been in mini truck clubs. I tried to get into lowrider clubs when I was younger than that, and I was sort of quickly swayed away from being in a lowrider club.
Yeah.
So by the lowrider guys.
Yeah, because if you're listening to this and you don't know who we are mini truckers.
We are mini truckers.
Yes.
And we can get into the definition of that, I guess, later.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But we are mini truckers. We are in a mini truck club, and we prefer building mini trucks. Although I think our tastes are much more broad than that.
Yeah.
But, I think that's any kind of like automotive guy.
Well, I think that's more mini trucker than any other automotive brand or any automotive hobby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of why I enjoy it. But all right, sorry about that. Go ahead. I mean,
No,
in my brain, I'm like, wait a minute. Maybe they don't know who we are. They're like, what are these guys taught? Twisted Obsessions. What's a mini truck club?
That's true. That's true. Maybe they don't know.
Well, you guys just keep on listening and you'll find out. So
yeah, so we'll get there. We'll get there. So Pat Buzzard, president of Twisted Obsession, saw me in the stereo shop. He came in, we chatted it up, and he convinced me to come to a meeting. And that was a huge chunk of my life. I was in that car club, Twisted Obsessions, from the fall of 2001 all the way up until 2013. And then in 2014, that's when I got into Forbidden Fantasy, and been in Forbidden Fantasy since then. So here we are. The little gaps in between all that I kind of wanted to touch on was the company, like starting our company. We started our company not as actually Custom Life. We started as BST Clothing in 2003, and my thing behind that was as I got into a mini truck club and started going to mini truck shows and realizing that this was my passion, I love doing this. I was like, how can I do this and also make money doing it? And so, after some thinking, Angie, my wife, and my partner for Custom Life, she actually went to school for fashion merchandising. So she has a degree in fashion merchandising. So we were already kind of in the, I wouldn't say, I don't want to use the term fashion because that sounds pretentious, but we were just in the apparel space already. Yeah. Like we were already in that space. And so I again, I don't want to sound like, sound conceited. No, I don't know how to describe it. However, I am proficient at doing things. Like I know how to weld. I can, shave door handles. I'm not going to go bag a truck because that's out of my wheelhouse, but I know how to do little things. And so I was like, well, what do I do? Do I pursue something like maybe learn these basic things that I know and like pursue them and be better at them and then like start a custom shop? Well, in the early 2000s, there were a lot of custom shops.
Yeah. Especially in the Inland Empire.
Especially in the Inland Empire, especially in Southern California, there were, I don't know about hundreds, but there were many. There were many custom shops. So I quickly realized that wasn't the space that I belong in. And then after, Angie and I thinking about it, we decided to start our apparel company. And We started in 2003. We called it BST. We called it Blood, Sweat, Tears. That was we were thinking of like a initialism. Oh, at the time, Famous Sergeant Straps was really cool. You know, there were big companies. There were a few big like Inland Empire companies out there that was really influenced by Famous being one of them. I can't remember right now. I can't remember, but there are a few companies.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to come up with a name that was like a bit mysterious, you know. So we decided to call it Blood, Sweat, Tears, BST for short. And we were that for a lot of years. From 2003 all the way up until 2017, we were BST Clothing. And the first few years, like 2003 through 2008, were very like I didn't have a print shop at that time. You know, I was doing other things, and so I was like, you know, going through local printers and stuff like that. So, and we were kind of taking it seriously, but not really. Well, 2007, when everything, I was in construction, and my family had a construction business at the time, and like 2007, like that was it. Like it was a wrap on all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a wrap on the construction stuff. So my pops is like, okay, well, you know, go figure something out. And I said, okay. So that's when I decided to start my screen printing company, and start my screen printing company in the fall of 2007. And 2008 is when we really started taking it seriously. Like we started printing our own apparel. We started going to shows, and we really started taking it seriously. And like I said, we were BST up until 2017. And so if you remember me saying that I wanted to create something that was a bit mysterious, it worked a little too well. So by the time we got to the other end of it,
yeah. When you create something that too mysterious and no one knows what you are,
no one knew what BSC stood for. I get all the time, what does BSC stand for? And at first I was trying to be like cute and say like, oh, it can mean whatever you want. Well, you know, I realized that it needs to be something.
Stood for we are not making any money.
That's exactly what it stood for. I mean, it worked for a long time. So that's when Angie and I got back, you know, put our heads together, and that's where we came up with Custom Life. And we've been Custom Life since 2017. So that's sort of me in a nutshell, really.
Yeah. I remember it's funny we'll bounce when I start talking about me a little bit. We'll go back to this, but when you were a vendor at the Forbidden Show. So I've been in Forbidden Fantasy, the club that we're both in, since 1995. And we started throwing our show in 98. And yeah, when it was at Paris Fairgrounds when you were a vendor.
So funny you should mention that, because at the time, so I was in Twisted Obsessions in 2001, and I had been going to the Forbidden Show since this next spring, which was 2002, and I had gone to every single Forbidden Show. So it's funny you should mention that, as being a vendor, because at the time, the pinnacle of our success was just being a vendor at the Forbidden Fantasy Show. Like that was success to us. Like we had came up with this idea, came up with products, and by then our first Forbidden Fantasy show that we vendored was in 2008, which is coincidentally enough that is the same year that you gave away the Toyota pickup.
Oh, was that year?
That was that year.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was already exciting. And for those who don't know, let's just kind of really quick go into that. So that year Forbidden Fantasy show, the Club Forbidden Fantasy had built what year was it?
It was an 87, I want to say. What's funny is wasn't that year that we built it. We were supposed to give that truck away the prior year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we bought that truck off of a friend of ours stock. And it was a factory turbo 87 pickup. And body dropped it, bagged it, shaved it, painted it, full interior, full stereo, wheels, everything.
It was a bad looking truck.
We were supposed to give it away the year prior, and it didn't happen because we couldn't get it done in time. So we pushed it another year. So that was 2008.
2008.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the person that I mentioned earlier, Pat, he actually got one of the keys.
Oh, really?
Because I'll explain it. So like the way they went down was to get into the drawing for this truck. I don't how much was it to get into it?
So it's $20 a ticket, and then we drew 20 tickets, and each person got a key.
Right. So it wasn't just like pull a thing and like that's the winner.
Yeah.
It was added an extra layer of like suspense by doing 20 keys. And my buddy Pat had one of the keys, and it wasn't the key, obviously, but I mean it was exciting, man.
Funny story about that, right? That truck. We had another guy in the club named Andy, and he had also an 84 to 88 Toyota pickup, basically the same truck. So we took his Toyota key and made 19 copies of his Toyota key. And then, but for anyone that's ever had an old car in general, the keys sometimes will start any car.
That's right. Isn't like Ford like a master of 4 or something like that?
I don't know, but
I've heard that.
my 86 Toyota pickup that I had was so worn out that I could put any key in it, any Toyota key in it, and it would start. We didn't think of that, and we were like, what if all of these keys start this truck? But we like the sense of relief when the first one didn't work. We were like, because we didn't try it. We didn't try it. We didn't do a test run or anything.
Dang.
So we're on stage, and we're just like, maybe if the first person wins, the first person wins. It was just meant to be, but it might not even be the key. We might have to like go get all the keys back from everyone and find the right key.
Oh my gosh, that's great! I had no idea. That's amazing. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, but it was $20 a ticket. So
$20 a ticket, 5 keys. It was exciting.
No, 20 keys.
Oh, I'm sorry, 20 keys.
Yeah,
20 keys. Yeah, that's okay. So sorry. Yeah, I get it now. My brain's all.
Yeah. Did you know Pat just bought 1 ticket, or did he buy more?
I don't know. I can't remember that.
Because the girl that won bought 1 ticket.
No way.
And people had bought 5 tickets, 10 tickets.
I think I bought 1.
Yeah.
I think I bought 1.
I have a thing with raffles. I never win for 1.
Same.
And I will only always buy a couple of tickets. I will never buy like hundreds of dollars worth of tickets, no matter what it is. 1 ticket.
I'm the same way, because like if it's meant to, like you said earlier, if it's meant to be, like it's meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also know people who have almost built entire trucks off of raffle tickets.
Adam Sinner in our club, he won. The only reason his Ford Ranger ever got bagged is because he won a raffle.
That's awesome.
To get it bagged.
That's funny. Yeah, I knew a guy just like that. Anyway, to get back on track about this story. So the 2008, the giveaway truck was an awesome year. So yeah, that was our first year vendoring the Forbidden Fantasy show. And like I said, at the time, that was a major accomplishment. Like me and Angie felt like, not that we made it, but we definitely did something,
Yeah. So Brian and Frank go way back, even before Brian and Frank started.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know exactly the first time I met you, but I definitely know for sure by 2003 because no. What year did you get your Titan?
04.
It's an 04. Okay, so then in 04 is when so I know that for sure because I was in Twisted Obsessions at the time. I had this Cadillac. And actually, if you've seen my Instagram lately, you actually saw a picture of it. So I have this Cadillac, and at the time, it was just lowered on 20-inch wire wheels. We drove it out to Ardenoise. You were hanging out there. I hit you up. I said, "Hey man, you know what's going on?" We hung out. It was fun. And the highlight of that night was me driving my Cadillac. You, a guy, what was it, Craig, who used to be in Forbidden Fantasy.
Oh, Greg,
who used to be in Forbidden Fantasy, and my buddy Josh. And between the three of you, I mean, I'm not going to get into weight specifics, but there was a lot of man.
We were hauling some weight. Yeah.
We were hauling some weight to the point where like it was just lowered, but it was like past the knockoff.
Yeah.
This freaking Cadillac. So I for sure know we knew each other then. So yeah. So I think that's about, and probably earlier than that. I don't know.
Yeah. That's funny, man. That trip was fun. So you want a funny story about that trip?
Yeah.
Well, I'll just do this real fast because people probably want the street that you get off on my house to come to my house here. That crazy long desolate road.
Yeah.
There was supposed to be a drag session. Down to Earth was supposed to set up a drag session on the way to that show on that street.
That's
but
awesome.
Not enough people showed up. So, anyways, that was just kind of off the wall. Because remember, Chris Kuda was there. He bought us wings at Santeezy's.
No. Oh, no, that was much later.
Was it much later?
That was much later. That was, that was much later.
Oh, okay.
I was like, at that point, I was vending shows, and I followed you guys out in the Titan, and I had all the crap in the back of the Titan. You had your blue truck.
The OBS. Yeah.
Yeah, you had that. It was a blue body drop OBS.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was
a cool truck.
Yeah. I get my stuff mixed up. It's
all these years.
It is.
Kind of get muddled together. But anyway, so,
I guess that could go an intro into kind of how long I've been doing this stuff.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I got into Forbidden Fantasy, the club that we're both in now, in 1995. And what's funny about that is right before that, I was in a race, like an import race club. Me and a buddy from high school, he had a Civic and I had an 86 Toyota pickup. And all we did was go to the street races. I lived at the street races from the day basically even before I got my license until they just stopped doing them, a couple years later. But so I was always into racing and stuff like that. But yeah, got in 95. First truck run was Rezo, 95 to 96, and then became president in 97, I want to say. And then we threw our first show in 98.
And also the club started in 93.
The club started in 93, yeah, by a guy named Todd Ramberg and a couple other guys. And then Todd when it was funny, when I got into the club because of Mike Quigley. I saw his Toyota pickup lowered. I worked at a pizza place.
Who's now in No Regrets.
But I saw his Toyota and I was like, I want my Toyota like that. It was lowered, 17-inch center lines, shell. It was sick.
There's always that one truck, right?
Well, it's funny because the logo, the Forbidden Fantasy logo on his shell, is the reason I got into Forbidden. I was going to get into a club called Addicted to Style.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was an Inland Empire club. This guy Mikey Rio ran it. They used to do cruise nights on Van Buren and Riverside there at one of the sandwich shops.
Oh yeah, like a sandwich shop.
Yeah. They called it something grinders. But anyways, and when Quigley pulled up in that Toyota pickup with the logo on the shell, I was like, he had the Toyota emblem behind the logo, and I was like, that's sick.
And it was a painted logo, right?
Painted logo, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's what I want to do, and that's what I did, and now we're here. So started that. What's that?
There's a lot in between though of that.
There's a ton in between that. I mean, more than it can be covered even in an episode. But basically, we started the car show in 1998. It started the Forbidden Fantasy Show and Shine started at Fireworks Family Fun Park, FFF, in Moreno Valley, California.
That's funny. That's funny.
For those of you who don't know, Forbidden Fantasy has an extra F in it. We can get into that later.
I know. Do you want to? You don't want to get into that right now.
No, we can get into that maybe if we ever start talking about the club or something. It stands for family. It stands for family.
It depends on if your mother asks
or grandmother.
Your grandmother.
And it also depends on who your mother is.
Well, that's true. Some people have some pretty gnarly mothers.
Yeah.
So anyway, Forbidden Fantasy Family. But I think, definitely. I think. I mean, between the two of us, because you know what I've always found interesting. It's like when someone starts a company doing lawyering or whatever, and they have together we have over 100 years experience, and there's like 5 guys who's done it for like 20, 25 years. Yeah. So I guess to use that trope, you and I have probably I've been doing this since 2001. What is that? 21 years? Wait, what is that? 21 years.
Of mini trucking experience?
Of mini trucking experience. Let's start there. Mini trucking experience.
Yeah. So, 98, we started that show. We did it for 2 years at the Fireworks Family Fun Park, which was an arcade in Moreno Valley right off the 60 freeway. And then we had to move it to Lake Paris Fairgrounds because it got too big. And we did that for a couple years. And there were some interesting years there because we had bands. And the one year we had the
infamous year.
The police shut it down.
Riots.
But they weren't really riots, but we called it riots because the riot police showed up.
It sounds much more fun saying riots.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, so that's like the club. Oh, go ahead.
And then low life video started to become a thing, and I remember that's when I started kind of like wanting, like you said, going to I worked Monday through Friday or the weekends too and whatever to go to be able to afford to go to car shows. I said in my mind, I saw Low Life Mike and Ernie and Oliver traveling to all these shows and making money at the shows. And I said, how can I do that? And I didn't want to start a video thing because everyone was doing video things at the time.
So this is like mid 2000s.
This is like 2005. So started
this would be the opportune time to go ahead and hand you a Liquid Death.
Liquid Death is not a sponsor of this podcast yet. Once we get a check from them, then we can talk about Liquid Death.
Oh, okay, all right.
Anyways, I just wanted to figure out how to make money going to car shows and not having to have a regular job. So started Grinder Magazine, print magazine. Had 6 issues. The economy took a crap, and that kind of went away. And I worked through that whole time that we had Grinder Magazine. I never stopped working. So it's not like I quit and made any money. Mm-hmm. And then in 2000, I forgot what year it was, but my buddy of mine in the club, Mike, came to me and he said, I want to do something. I want to start Grinder Magazine with you again. This was someone totally different than started it with me in the beginning.
Because it was you and Galen in the beginning, right?
In the beginning, it was Galen, Armenta, this guy Richard in the club, and myself. And the funny thing is, Richard, he was a graphic designer. That's what he went to school for. And he interviewed for Mini Truckin' Magazine alongside Mike Alexander.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
And Mike ended up getting the job.
Yeah.
And Rich was like, well, what do I do now? I was like, well, let's start our own magazine.
Yeah.
And so we did. And then Rich exited pretty soon. I think the first issue he was gone. He moved out of state. And then me and Galen did it for a while. Then we moved on. And then me and Mike did 1 issue. And I still didn't know what I was doing. You know, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I had no idea what I was doing.
I remember you, because this is where it all intertwines. Like you and I, our relationship. So that's when I really started to like know you, I guess, was around that time, because I started hitting you up because I saw you start the magazine and I loved it. I was totally into it because, you know, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because that magazine was supposed to be like, we had Mini Truckin' Magazine. We've had Mini Truckin' Magazine since, you know, the 80s or whenever it started.
Yeah.
But that magazine was supposed to be sort of a bridge. So like earlier in our conversation, we were talking about how mini truckers aren't necessarily confined to just mini trucks. It's more of like a blanket thing, because our scene started in mini trucks, but eventually became like a blanket term.
Yeah.
And so this Grinder, the first Grinder magazine at the time, was supposed to be the bridge between Mini Truckin' Magazine and like an import magazine. Where
like Sport, Compact Car, Super Street, those magazines, because I love mini trucks, don't get me wrong, but I always liked the imports too, the Hondas, and everything like that. So we wanted to do something that everything was mini truck inspired, from cars to full size trucks, even lifted trucks.
Which issue had the Honda on there? It was a Honda, right? Which one was the first car cover?
Was it the 300, the Chrysler 300?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was that 300.
It was Bill Carlton's 300.
Okay,
Bill from Extensive.
And that sort of set the first issue had the yellow Toyota on it, right?
Green
Toyota on it.
Yellow, green, yeah, from Arizona. And then the blue, there was a blue S10, and I'll put the image on the screen for YouTube, but that was the guitarist for Atreyu's truck.
Oh, really?
We were shooting that in Orange County, and the guy was like, yeah, I'm in a band, you know, we're going on tour and stuff. And I remember Galen goes, oh, so you have to like drive to these things? And he goes, no, we have a bus. And we're like,
wait a minute.
A bus? We're like, what band is it? And he's like, Atreyu. And I was like, I don't know who that is. So my my ex-girlfriend was sitting in the truck at the time, and I walked back when we were done. I was like, have you heard of Atreyu? She's like, yes. I was like, oh, that's him.
That's the guy.
And another funny story is his brother was the one that built that Tacoma with the cards on it. It was at the cancer show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because that's an MIC truck.
Yep.
This all ties together, because didn't the yellow Ranger that was like I forget, it was like a yellow Ranger built by MIC. Wasn't he like in a band or like a skateboarder or something?
He was a
like
skater.
That? Okay.
But the owner of MIC was a professional skater as well.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the original owner of MIC.
So MIC is a shop from Anaheim, California. So in the early 2000s, it was a big shop. Like, I remember it was
huge. When they would vend our show, and they were the biggest vendor there.
I remember.
I remember walking into that and going, hey, we need X amount of dollars. And he would just be like, shoo, 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 here's your money. You know, whereas you go to some shops and you're like, hey, it's this much money. They're like, oh, can we pay you after the show?
Those shops will not be named. No, just kidding.
They're not around anymore, so we could talk about it.
There's so many shops. You know, earlier we were talking about just how many shops were in Southern California in the early 2000s. It's actually pretty amazing. Like the early 2000s in mini trucking. I mean, so every person and this could start the billet conversation, but it won't. Every person has their sort of like era they came up in. Ours are very close together because we're very close in age.
Yeah.
But some people got started in the 80s when it was like just static drop trucks and dancing beds and, 15s with stretch tires and stuff like that. And so my era is early because I got in 2001. So my era was early 2000s. And to me, if you were to describe a truck built in that time, that would kind of encapsulate my time coming up is picture S10, fully shaved, big chrome wheels. Crazy paints weren't really a thing back then. They were more like solid color paint jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah, they had kind of taken a break at that point in time.
Yeah, I think the whole graphic thing kind of took a break, which is
MIC had their own style of crazy paint though.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of
if you look at all the stuff from MIC, it was always bright. They used a lot of stars.
Yeah, nautical stars.
Yeah, right.
What's more early 2000s than a nautical star?
And then it tattooed on your elbows.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say that I have a star tattooed on. It's not a nautical star, but it is a star. I think everybody definitely early 2000s.
Frank the non-trendy Frank. Do you remember the first time that we was it? I don't know where you were, but it was, and we'll probably won't even discuss this into great detail. But the time it was Danger Zone, I think, and like you were still in Twisted Obsessions, and we were all partying at that Motel 6.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And
where are you going with this? I don't remember.
Oh, you were on a good one, and you had passed out, and then you kind of just like left Angie in the parking lot.
Oh yeah,
she was just sitting. She was just sitting on the stairs, and she's like,
right.
Yeah, and then we had this deep conversation about you before we were even like
buddies,
good friends or anything.
Yeah,
so it was kind of funny. It was kind of funny. My introduction to you and Angie was exactly how you and Angie are when you party.
Me and Angie definitely have I don't know how to say it, but me and Angie are me and Angie for sure.
Yeah, you guys have fun.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good way to put it. We have fun.
Yeah, and sometimes you have a lot of fun.
Sometimes we have too much fun, but we've learned, at least me, I cannot speak for Angie, but I can speak for myself, that over the years I have learned how to balance the fun part, because you know what, this is a job, and like when we go to a show and we set up booths, we have to get up in the morning, we have to do what we have to do, and so over the years I've really learned how to balance that out, have a great time but still just kind of get to it the next day. We've slowed down a little bit, these past couple years, but it's been fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was thinking about that today. I was like, I wonder if we're ever going to talk. Like, I'd like to talk about that at some point in time on this. Is how I didn't just slow down; I stopped.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So probably not get into that now, but maybe later on or something.
Yeah, no, for
but
sure.
Anyways, where did we leave off?
Well, we kind of like left off. We kind of went down
Grinder Magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went down that weird thing, but so after Grinder Magazine, that was like 2008.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I did want to make one more point on the whole Grinder Magazine thing and our relationship. That's how we got down the rabbit hole. I just wanted to make one more point that I would hit you up because the first few episodes of Grinder were free. You used to just give them away.
Yeah.
Right. Which is maybe not the best business move.
Yeah, tell you what, if you think you don't need to go to business school, you should probably go to business school.
You should probably do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, you were giving away these magazines, and so I would hit you up and be like, "Hey man, I really want to like give these things away," and you would give me boxes at a time, and I put them in the trunk of my Cadillac, and I'd cruise around at local shows, and I'd be handing out grinders and stuff like that. So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, we would send boxes. There's still people that hit me up to this day. They're like, "Hey, I still have like a half a box of the magazines."
That's awesome.
I'm like, we probably shouldn't have sent an entire box to each person that asked.
I think I had half a box left at one point too, but
so
I'm down to where I have the main, just all the issues, and that's it. But yeah,
so
anyway,
funny.
That was that.
Funny story about magazine distribution, real fast. We used to pick up the magazines from the printer in a minivan, and there were so many that the minivan would be like completely laid out. That's how heavy this was.
Magazines are heavy.
Thousands of magazines, and we would print on very heavy paper. So
Yeah, I
we
remember.
we would get them back to my house, and we would use DHL to ship. So I would print all these DHL shipping labels, and then I would leave these magazines in my front yard, and DHL would pick them up. So they did the very first time they did this. The next day, someone was like, "Hey man, the magazine looks great," and he lived in like Montana or something. I was like, "How'd you already get your magazine?" And then another shop, "Hey man, got the magazines." I was like, "This is one day." So I accidentally filled out next day shipping.
Oh no.
My DHL bill was like $8,000.
Whoa.
And I never paid it.
Oh,
I called him and I said, "Look, hey, I don't have this money. I don't have this money at all. So this was a mistake. Like these labels are pink and these other ones are purple. I just printed on the wrong ones."
wow.
And they never said anything.
But what are they gonna do? I mean, they're gonna. Well, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, they would just not pick up. But anyways,
Yeah, and that's funny. That's interesting.
yeah, I have a couple of funny stories like that. But
And
then
that's what all this stuff is. It's just like this crazy like trial and error, and just kind of putting
Yeah.
yourself out there and just just trying something.
yeah, it's and then 2009 is when I quit my job. I worked for the county hospital in Riverside for 8 or 9 years, and while going through all this, Grinder magazine and all that stuff, and then finally I quit. Didn't know what I was gonna do, and hit up Cody that used to work for Low Life Video. He used to do a lot of filming for him, and he lived out here in Phoenix area. And I had this idea. I was like, "Hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. No one is putting car shows on YouTube." I was like, "But I don't know what camera to get. I don't know how to edit. I don't know anything." So he was like, "It's a great idea." I was like, "You want to partner up on it?" He said, "Yeah." So I drove out to Phoenix and slept on the floor in his bedroom. He still lived with his parents. He was younger, and we filmed a car. It was the very first Grinder video. It was a Volkswagen Passat.
I remember that one. Mm-hmm.
And we filmed it and edited it, and that was the start of it.
A couple things, and I was going to mention this earlier, and it's interesting that you mentioned that right now. It's because earlier when you started the magazine, you had no experience in starting a magazine, and I remember you saying that you would do crash courses in like Photoshop and Illustrator.
So the first 6 issues, we did 7 total. The first 6 issues, Galen did all of the photography and all of the graphic design. Granted, I would sit next to him and be like, "Yeah, that looks cool. That looks cool." And back then, it wasn't easy to put a magazine together. There wasn't an Adobe program like there is now. We had to use a program called Quark Express. And think of a layout of a magazine the way it prints. It prints like 4 sheets at a time, but it prints both sides. So, but it doesn't print them in order. So you have to lay this out like page 1 is here, and on the other next to page 1 would be like page 48, and then like page 36, and then you have to it was a mess. But I just did the writing. That's all I did. And then when we came back for that last issue, I didn't know how to use a camera or anything. So when we went to lay the magazine out, I had to call Brandon at Fuel Market and be like, "Hey man, I need to know how to put like a border around a photo." Mm-hmm. Like I didn't even know how to take a photo into Photoshop and then put another photo next to that photo.
Uh-huh.
And in a month's time, I went from not knowing that to laying the entire magazine out.
Right.
So very, very similar to how we do these videos.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say that it's like very similar to how we do everything. Even me for like screen printing. When I started screen printing my own shirts, I didn't know. I just basically bought a business in a box and just jumped right into it. And it's funny you should say that about adding borders and stuff, because me and Andrew sitting there like, "Okay, let's create a T-shirt," and she's like, "Well, how do we like put a text on and then put an outline around the text?" We don't know. And there was, at the time, I mean, this is, I know there was YouTube, but I mean, YouTube wasn't the tool that it is now, where you can be like, "How to do that," and it'll tell you exactly how to do it. And so, yeah, we had to resort to the same thing. We had to we had to hit up someone who we knew, who kind of knew about Photoshop, and be like, "Hey, how do we just add an outline to this?" And it's interesting how when we start this stuff, you just have to just jump into it and do it.
Yeah, it's kind of exactly what it was. And I mean, to this day, for this podcast,
Yeah.
like, okay, we want to start a podcast. how to start a podcast. Then, I went down the rabbit hole of microphones.
Mm-hmm.
I went down the rabbit hole of off, you know what I mean? Like, you're in a different location then. Like, how do you do that? How do you do this? How do you do that? And then how do you upload a podcast to Apple? How do you, whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you just do it.
Yeah. You just If you're really passionate about something and you want to do it, then you just figure out how to do it. And even now, like I've been screen printing since '07. So I don't know, do the math. So I've been screen printing for a long time. But there's just the other day I was like, I forgot exactly what it was, but it's just one of those things where I'm doing it and then I'm like, just change one little thing. I'm like, wait a minute, I've been doing this for like 15 years and all I had to do was that to make it better.
Yeah.
And it's always constantly finding out stuff like that. And especially doing this stuff like what we do with now podcasting and making videos and stuff like that. You're just constantly learning new things.
Yeah. Yep. It's pretty crazy. I think, so that first video we uploaded in, I think, October of 2010. And, and now we've got I don't want to say 200 videos. We should have a lot more videos. I look back on when I started doing this. I didn't even start like vlogging type videos, like turning the camera on myself until the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I mean, I went to Australia 3 times, New Zealand twice, Japan. Yeah, I documented that stuff, but I didn't document that stuff correctly. You know what I mean? I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I wish I could go back and document that. Because in my head, it was just shoot show coverage and add music to it.
Right.
A little bit of lifestyle here and there and all that stuff. But man,
which is cool because that really set the tone for your whole style of filming and making videos, I think. Because like you definitely have a style. And actually, you're forgetting a chunk. So you went from Grindr magazine to producing that first Volkswagen video. You forgot the whole DVD thing. You made three DVDs.
Well, the DVD, we were never going to make a DVD.
Oh,
we
really?
We started it with just the intention of YouTube.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then we started going, we could probably make a little bit of money if we also filmed for the DVD. But the problem was you're trying to film 2 things. Okay, what do you put on YouTube? What do you put on the DVD? And it took so long to get the first one out, and then, we did 2 more after that. But doing the DVDs would hurt the YouTube channel because we weren't putting content out because we were filming it for the DVD, and so on and so forth. So no more DVDs.
But you did make DVDs. You came out with 3 volumes, correct?
3 DVD / Blu-rays. Yeah.
And those were great. I mean, because like we touched a little bit on like Low Life and Domination and a lot of the videos or DVD companies at the time, and you kind of like really kind of not went in another direction, but found your style.
Everyone had their style, right? Low Life Video was like the party.
Yeah, which were fun.
Those
videos were so good.
He was very skate video influenced, right? Mm-hmm. So, that's my favorite. Domination. Very similar, but he used a lot of different style music and stuff, and then you had Surface that came out that was a lot more like refined, I would say.
And to use their tagline, because I think it really fits what they did, and it's not to say any of the other ones were not like this, but it said when art meets asphalt.
Yeah.
To me, that really really kind of really set the tone what Surface did.
Yeah, big time. They were one of the first ones to start using like camera jibs and stuff like that, trying to refine the whole thing and make it look a lot smoother and things like that. And now I lost my train of thought.
It's okay because
so sorry. I'll finish up with this. We got our inspiration from the Euro side of things. There was a company called AWOL, Air, Water, or Land.
Oh, that's a cool name.
If you look them up, they would go to like Werthersee and all these Volkswagen shows, and their style of filming really, the music and all that stuff, like that's what influenced a lot of Grindr TV stuff.
That's cool. The only thing that I was going to touch on, since we were talking about Surface DVD and we were talking about milestones, I was talking about milestones earlier. So one of our first milestones was actually vendoring at the Forbidden Fantasy Show. Another one of our huge milestones was actually having an ad, not even really an ad. It was more just like a brought to you by kind of thing.
Yeah.
In Surface DVD. So that was like another big thing for us. There's like little things in personally my career that I look back on and I'm like really proud of those little things. And that was one of them. So one being vendoring the first time at Forbidden Fantasy. And then one being having this like little mention in Surface.
Yeah. Were those milestones, were you successful with those milestones? Because each of those milestones essentially you paid for.
Right. What do you mean? What do you mean by paid for?
Like you paid for a vendor spot.
Oh yeah. No,
you know what I'm saying? Like your milestone was like being there and fulfilling that vendor spot with your product.
Right.
And then like your milestone with Surface was like you had substance behind that presented by.
Right.
Because we're going to get into something probably down the road in one of these episodes about people creating things without substance behind them.
Oh, that's spicy.
It's a little spicy.
It's a little spicy.
It's a little spicy,
It's
and
we're spicy.
You know, and it'll probably just be a small conversation.
Yeah.
You know.
No, these milestones are one like just personal. I don't. Is the term professional? Is that a good term to use? Like professional milestones?
I think
my
so
professional career, because this is my career. This is what I do, right?
Yeah, because I have the same thing. Like I remember my first photography feature in a magazine. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's
that's a huge thing. So yeah, it's
we
exactly
haven't
what it
even
is.
we haven't even touched on that you know you have produced Grinder magazine, and then you moved into Grinder TV, which was YouTube based and DVD based. We're leaving out the whole chunk where you're a professional photographer who has many covers under his belt. Many covers.
Yeah, it's ramped up and it's ramping up quickly. So it's something that I'm really enjoying doing right now.
That's great.
But yeah, we could talk about that on another thing.
We say that a lot. We're like, we'll touch on that. I think
we'll touch on that later.
We have so much to talk about, but we have to compact it down.
Yeah.
and take it one little chunk at a time.
Because this isn't a 20 something hour road trip where we could just
go
talk for 8 hours and then you know.
Yeah. So let's talk about while we're kind of winding down, because we're reaching our hour, because we've decided that an hour is pretty much, you know, how we want to run these things.
We are just over an hour right now.
Okay. So let's wind it down with where we're going.
Where we're personally going, or where this is going?
The podcast. The podcast space is going.
It's going on YouTube and no, I'm just where our podcast space is going. Hopefully people are enjoying it. You know what I mean?
Hopefully they're enjoying it.
It's hard to tell because you don't get comments on Spotify or whatever like you do on YouTube, so you don't see that instant like, oh, this is awesome. But there are some cool comments on the thing. And what I would say is keep commenting on the YouTube videos and our Instagram posts, because I am taking kind of notes of what people are saying.
Yeah, definitely.
And we can circle back to those things. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Like we want to address like comments. Like if you're watching this on YouTube and you drop a comment, then we want to reference, you know, the comments that you guys are dropping in later episodes and stuff like that.
Even if you're just listening to this, hit the Custom Life Instagram or Grinder TV Instagram and just ask a question.
What's your Instagram? You got to drop your Instagram.
Oh, Grinder_TV.
And mine is custom_life. Custom with a K _life.
Yes.
So also I was more talking about, you know, I think those are like things that where this podcast is going, but I also wanted more to say that we plan on making this a weekly podcast.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. You're right.
Weekly podcast. We're going to try to, you know, record these like end of the week, have it uploaded by beginning of the next week.
Yeah.
And as long as everybody keeps watching and listening, we're going to keep making these things. Actually,
I think we're going to keep making them whether people listen to them or watch them.
That's
anyways.
exactly what the next thing I was going to say. I think we're just going to start making these things. I'm having fun. This is fun. I love talking. You know, obviously.
The funny thing is what you guys don't know is me and Frank message each other on Facebook pretty much every day. Mm-hmm. So this is just an extension of that, our messages.
Right.
You know what I mean?
This is just an extension of the conversations that we have, you know, on our long road trips and stuff like that. Like I was saying, I do like to talk, and now I'm like kind of even now, just winding down on this conversation, I'm still now thinking about the beginning of the conversation, and I felt like I was a little like drawn out, maybe I was trying to get too into the mud. I apologize.
Yeah.
I apologize for that. Maybe I was getting a little too
Well, you never
behind
know.
the music.
The audio could fail on this, and we might have to redo this whole thing.
That's true.
We'll see.
Hopefully it won't.
I don't think it will, but yeah, we're trying to do them weekly because even we kind of got into ourselves, talk about ourselves and our paths and stuff today on this episode. But the next episode, like we haven't even talked about our trip to Mini Nats.
No, we haven't even.
We haven't talked about
any
our
of that.
trip to anything, and there's stuff coming up.
That's right.
So we're not only backed up on edits, and by the way, since the pilot episode, I have not finished anything.
Me neither.
I have finished. I maybe got one more minute on the reunion show, and edited this podcast, the pilot podcast, and then edited some work stuff. But
Me too.
Yeah.
I have got the first. I've got the first day of Forbidden Fantasy Show and Shine. So Friday's done, and now I'm beginning Saturday. So that's
Yeah,
sort of
and then-
like how I break down my videos. Is like I basically, because usually just like any story, break it into 3 parts. And so, I my accomplishments are like third. So I'm done with the first third and now working on the rest.
yeah, so I'm gonna try to edit this next video. The thing that's, excuse me, need a cough button right here, like in baseball. They
Yeah,
have
yeah.
cough buttons.
Yeah.
By the way, the Dodgers and Cubs got rained out today.
I saw that.
Frank's a Dodger fan, and I'm a Cubs fan, and those
Which-
teams are unlike each other right now. But it's fun when they play each other.
Yeah, definitely. And without getting bored, like people don't tune into this podcast for sports.
No.
But it's fun. It's fun listening because the Dodgers and the Cubs are in the same division. So
Well, the same, yeah. Nationally.
the same, yeah. Anyway, but anyway,
anyways, that's
sports
it.
stuff.
Yeah, boring sports stuff. What are we going to talk about in the next episode?
I think
You want to get into why you don't like Billet Wheels?
we could do that.
Why? What don't I like? That's controversial.
4-door cars. No, that's not
No,
controversial.
that's not controversial. That's
not
just
controversial.
the right thing to
That's
not like.
back on me. That's back on me.
We'll get into something. I think we'll
let's
probably
talk about let's talk about trips next.
let's talk about road trips and our trips to
road
Mini
trips.
Nats.
What, how, when, why, what goes on?
And I really want to talk about how everyone says, why don't you get a van? Why don't you get a motorhome? Why don't you do this? We'll tell you exactly why.
Yeah.
We don't do any of that.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you that I went to fix my Titan yesterday with I replaced the clock spring so the light unflashes.
The
and all.
airbag, yeah.
Yeah, I have to put the old clock spring back in because something happened, or I forgot to. Anyways, it's just
That'll be
we'll
another
we'll get into our Titans.
That's another subject.
On the next
is
episode,
Our
so-
Titans, our shitty titties,
So make sure you guys go and subscribe to our YouTube channels.
please.
Go follow us on Instagram and subscribe to these podcasts. I don't know how podcasts work so much. I just know
Yeah.
you can subscribe to them. You can rate them. So rate them. If you're listening to this, rate the podcast. All that stuff helps us out.
Right on. So that's it. Thanks.